The pick is in.
The Chicago Bears have made a selection in the 2024 NFL Draft. Alongside Locked On College Football host Spencer McLaughlin, I'm Tenitra Batiste, and we are joined by Lauren Cox of Locked On Bears to break down the Kiran Amegadjie pick with the number 75 for the Bears. Now, for you, Lauren, when you look at this offensive tackle out of Yale, what do you think are the best assets that he brings to this Chicago team?
First of all, I'm impressed with how smoothly you said his name because I'm definitely still working through it myself. But he definitely comes to Chicago as more of a developmental offensive line prospect here. And that fits well with where the Bears are on the O-line right now. They don't necessarily need him to come in day one and take over as starting left tackle, no questions asked. There's an opportunity for him here to compete at left tackle, and with Braxton Jones, their 5th-round pick from a couple of years ago. But I'm not expecting him to step in and win that role right away. But he also played right guard specifically earlier in his time at Yale. So I think the Bears see him as a guy who they'll figure out later exactly where he's going to contribute on this offensive line. And for now, get him in the building, let him compete and take advantage of a really physical set of tools that not a lot of offensive tackles have. And they'll kind of clean up everything else on the back end and help him adjust from the FCS level competition, to NFL defensive linemen.
And Lauren, you mentioned some of those physical tools that he has. What are some of those specifics that you like that you've seen in Kiran so far?
Yeah, he's the kind of mold of offensive lineman that we've seen the Bears general manager Ryan Poles prioritize here, where it's not that he's light per se, but he moves light. For a guy who's 6'5", 325 pounds, he is light and quick on his feet. He moves like a player who's much, much lighter than he actually is. Plus, he's got some of the longest arms in this draft at 36-inch arms and 85-inch wingspan. He is hard to get hands on because he can create that separation and also move his feet so quickly that you're never really going to get up in his chest and underneath his pads because he can always keep you at a literal arm's length there. So when you can kind of take those physical tools that are built into his body and the way he moves, and then if you can just kind of refine the pad level and some of the technique there in terms of getting out of his stance and where he actually puts those hands and arms in his pass protection, like that's when you can take a raw piece of clay in the offensive line and then find a mold for him in the future as a starter.
Spoken like our own true 6'5" himself, Lauren Cox. For more on the Bears, subscribe to Locked On Bears on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast. Spencer, what do you like in what you see in Kiran Amegadjie?
Well, I think the size is certainly there. I think something that you certainly have to be worried about is he's coming off of a quad injury. You hope that doesn't linger and limit his athleticism and his upside, but certainly it is definitely there. And I think playing at Yale, he's not going to be on anybody's radar. I'm sure there are a lot of Bears fans going, we took who? He played where? Who do they play? What are you talking about? I will not take Ivy League disrespect like that. But no, I think he's a little bit more of a project, certainly. But what if you can get him to that level? The good news for the Bears is they don't need him to step in right away. They've got a couple of tackles. I got to shout out Braxton Jones of Southern Utah, who I do play-by-play for. But I think that, that's a position that certainly, Jones has had his ups and downs. He's had some nice moments. He's also struggled a little bit. So I think you bring a little competition, a little bit of depth. I think that's what he is initially. And then if you tell me in 2 to 3 years he's a starting offensive tackle, I think that's where he can really slide in.
Yeah, whatever they get out of him more than what I'm sure they could ask for in a 3rd-round offensive tackle. But hey, so far so good. A good draft for the Bears, especially the work they were able to do in that 1st round. For continuing coverage of the 2024 NFL Draft, subscribe to Locked On NFL on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.